Greetings, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today. It is an exciting time to be operating a business here. And so I'm grateful that Amber has chosen to take some time to be with us today. Jessica is feeling, shall we say, a bit under the weather, Amber, as she works through that. So greetings to each of you. And we're sorry that Jessica's not here. However, we have Amber, and Amber will educate us and teach us as we go. So it's a great time. Great time. Amber, how
Yeah,
are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dirk?
I'm great. It's blue sky, sunshine, 45 degrees outside. It's a beautiful spring day. Blossoms are out on the
Hmm.
apple trees and the peach trees here in the Lake Washington area. So it's a beautiful spring day. How about you?
Yeah. No, like things are beautiful out here. A little warmer than usual. I'm also in the Pacific Northwest in Boise, and so we, yeah, we've had a wild winter and early spring for sure.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think I think the whole country's seeing different variations of wild weather.
Yeah,
So,
right. For
yeah,
sure. Hence the importance of
yeah.
our conversation today, right? As we go through this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
No, I think thanks so much for having me, Dirk. I'm really excited to be here, and our panels turned a little bit more into a conversation. I think about, yeah, what are today's problems, right?
yeah.
And what are we looking at? What does this summer look like, and why is it going to be different than every other summer? And how do we prepare for this in the future? And all of the like, how do we build resilient businesses to kind of take these ups and downs and these changes that we're seeing, in just kind of global affairs, the weather, the supply and demand changes, which is kind of what we're starting to talk about here. Um,
For sure.
so yeah, really just kind of wanted to really talk about that today and say, like we talk about all of these things, but like let's talk about why, right? Like
Yeah.
what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What have we been doing, and what should change, right? Like, I think that's maybe one of the big things that we look at is like this, we're in this mindset shift right now. And I think you're seeing this, Dirk. Like I see what you do up at Northwest Vacations of, you're constantly asking like, how do you adapt to everything that's going on right now, and how do you build that resilient business? And that's, yeah.
Exactly right. It's just this whole menagerie of different items that come together to make a successful business. It's not just one piece of marketing or one piece of operations. It's actually everything that comes together. And that's where VRNation as an association has come together to help facilitate these different connected pieces that all come together as we start to look at vendors, the different stakeholders of vendors, owners, owners of the properties, owners of the vacation rental businesses, and employees. And then the guests, all of those have to come together in a specific way. And VR Nation, as a part of this education and a part of
Hmm.
this interest in helping and elevating the individuals be better at their specific skill and managing their business, does these webinars. We have a conference coming up in Denver later this month where it's all in person and able to hobnob and connect and to commiserate and celebrate as our successes and losses as we go forward. So I think you'll be in Denver later this month,
Hmm.
right? So
Yes,
that'll be
looking
great.
forward to it.
Absolutely. So then,
Hmm.
as we start to think about Bookings Cloud, and as we start to think about um, how best to succeed in this,
Hmm.
what counsel do you have for us today, Amber, as you start to look at because your path to the current seat you're in has been a curious one, if I may choose to use that word,
Hmm.
where you've been part of a lot of merger and acquisition, you've been part of business development, you've been part of managing a property management system, you've been part of working directly with property managers. And so your breadth and depth and experience certainly puts you in a unique seat to give you a unique perspective to sit in your current seat to say, this is what my experience teaches us.
Yeah, I no, like that's a great question, and that's a lot of like what I think about because I do like to think about like what do vacation rentals look like across the um, across the U.S., especially because that's what I know. And I've done work in international and whatnot. But this idea of like each individual market feels special and it feels different, but we're hitting a lot of these same things. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and ultimately at the end of the day, one of the things that we're looking at is we've got supply and demand. And this has shifted radically. Like if we look at supply in the US, from 2019 to now, it's probably doubled in a lot of parts of the country where they could double. Like anything that could become a vacation rental became a vacation rental. I call it a little bit of the grayification of vacation rentals and maybe just design in general, where you
Yeah.
see like these like somebody will have like I've got 200 condos, but they're all gray. Right, they all look the same. They're all identical. They all look like places where people live normally, right? With IKEA furniture and
Right.
whatnot. And it's shifted what there's all this additional supply, and there's good supply too, right? But there's a lot of supply across the country. And the demand has not really, like, it's really kind of stabilized at this point, where demand is what it is. And I would say, even I'm going to say budget demand is going down a little bit, luxury demand is going up a little bit more. But like,
Mm.
it's that shift. I don't know that we as you know, uh, active like industry thinkers have adjusted, and they like local vacational managers have adjusted how they respond to that. We've kind of been using the same tools to respond to a new environment. Have you seen that like nationwide of like the shift that's happening? It's not as much in the Northwest, but that supply demand shift and like what are you seeing there?
Yeah, so I'm looking at I'm looking at the number of the people now that have come out of the COVID years where they bought their property and thinking they
Hmm.
could do all this money, and now they're saying, what can I do? As a
Hmm.
property manager, and I'm looking at my P&L and I'm looking at my work that I do from that standpoint, what additional revenue streams can I do? Because I can only push rates so much, and I can only collect so many fees attached to that. So what additional revenue streams can I work with? What additional marketing can I do? Which is how you and I came together on this. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful that you've been my guide that I get to climb my 10,000 steps and help me with my marketing questions to say, being able just to get my product in front of those who are specifically looking for that. And so, knowing that there's a finite number of guests who are looking to go to a specific destination and they have a lot of
Hmm.
choices as to where they stay, and they have a lot of avenues to select those properties to stay, whether that be the large OTAs, the small OTAs, or a book direct, which, I have a bias for book direct, and I'll be happy to
Hmm.
to share that straight out. Um, at the same time, being able to be super intentional with my limited marketing dollars to
Hmm.
um, to get my product. I shouldn't say product because that makes it commoditized. The destination that people are looking to stay at for whatever
Hmm.
experiences that they're looking to do. Um, you know, that's what I'm
Yeah.
seeing of how do I manage my business in an effective and efficient way while making sure that I get the right price and the right uh, location, right property at the right time in front of the
Hmm.
right guest. That old supply and demand line, right, from economics
That's
101. Where do I need to be?
yeah, that's the ultimate piece here. I'll throw out a couple stats. Um, Key data has been showing numbers in, every time they do a state of the industry report, they'll show homeowners have been consistently making less money quarter over quarter since in over the last 3 years. So individual homeowners are making less money. And this idea that there's less demand to go over more supply, right? And then on the other side of it, Expedia posted something that 67% of travelers can't find the vacation rental they're looking for. So when they're looking for a specific property in a specific location that's got the amenities that they're looking for, even through the OTAs and searching and what's available online, they're having trouble finding this property. So we've got a visibility issue going on, and we've got a like, how do you get the visibility of the demand of people looking for your property to the actual property that they want to book, right? And
Yeah.
this is one of the things of like how do top operators make sure that their properties are getting in front of the right people to book, right? So we have a poll
Right.
question
So
for you. Yeah, go
just one
ahead.
second before we do the poll question, going back to the slide right before,
Hmm.
at the VRNation conference, we have the founder of UGG, the shoes, coming to speak.
Hmm.
And in his book, he talks about this growth and growing. He was always trying to sell more shoes, more shoes. And that's not necessarily what we need to be doing because more homes doesn't mean more revenue in many ways.
Right.
There are some
Exactly.
homes that generate more profit than others, and there are some homes that cost more to operate than others. So how do I know that as an operator and making sure that I have what works for me, my personality, my people, what inventory does that look like? And if you were to come manage my
Hmm.
inventory, Amber, it would look similar but also different, um, just because we're different. And it doesn't make it right or
Hmm.
wrong, it just makes it different.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
anyway, if you're coming to the conference, Mr. Bryan will be there and he talks about making sure that the revenue streams and all of that and
Hmm.
towards the tail end of the book. So I'll give you that at least. So you're not looking for it in chapters 1 through 4. It's in chapter
I
16.
love it. Yeah, and understanding how supply and demand is shifted in individual markets and how to change your strategy to account for that is one of the biggest things I think that we across the industry can learn and really just that's the number one place to be adaptable is to question like how has supply and demand shifted over the last 3 years, 5 years in my market, and have the tools in my strategy changed to adapt to that?
Yeah.
And the most forward thinking managers have been doing that, for sure.
Thanks for
Uh,
going back a slide. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that piece. So we one of the things, and I'm going to start asking questions that are going to be increasingly difficult to answer, right? And one of the things that I want to say is, as a leader of a business, the your job is not necessarily to have all of the answers. I really want to position that as your job is to ask the right questions to make the answers obvious and create internal alignment on we want to answer this question and we want to know what this looks like. So, looking at that, like what percentage of your bookings today are direct? Dirk, if you answered that, what is your answer?
Oh, we're north of 50%.
Hmm.
We're north of 50%. We're
Yeah.
about uh so we our people. Our guests come
Hmm.
from 3 destinations. There's a little bit from Airbnb, a little bit from VRBO or Verbo, excuse me, and then the rest are all
Hmm.
book direct. And so we
Hmm.
have a strong pattern that way, and some of that's from SEO, and I would say a lot of that is from what we've chosen to do with you, Amber, to do that.
Hmm. Perfect. Yeah. And I know like 50% is daunting, like getting to 50% when you're low, all of those things, like that shift is daunting. Like, how do you do it? Why should you do it? What that looks like. If I look at direct bookings, I'm seeing them as these are, and, love your feedback, Dirk. These are the people who are coming to you and they understand that your website and your service and your whole entire brand package of your promise that you're taking care of their vacation, um, they know who's
Exactly.
doing that, right?
I think of a comment I heard from Tim Cafferty from Outer Banks Blue, where he received a call from a guest who checked into a house and called him up and said, "Hey, this house isn't your standard." And he said,
Hmm.
"You're right. Thank you for telling me so I can address it." And to me, that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about the short-term rental space is all the operators have a personality. And I know there's this conversation about,
Hmm.
consistency across the industry and all those things of that nature. And I agree that that has its place. At the same time, I'm looking at me, if I bought an asset on the lake and I'm going to turn that asset over to somebody to own or to manage,
Mhm.
I want to know that the I've worked hard for my money and I've worked hard to purchase this asset. I want to know that it's going to be taken care of. So this connection that I have with the people that
Mhm.
are going to be walking in there and doing the maintenance and screening the guests and doing all those things that we do with short-term rentals is going to be important to me as a property owner. And so that's the
Mhm.
approach I take uh, as we start to manage the properties. And I think this is where you're talking about that too, is because we book direct, I now can provide the narrative that matches the guest. I can now provide the narrative that matches me. I can now provide all of these
Mhm.
things because there's no intermediary.
Yeah. And and I'm going to say, like, to expand on that picture, that leads into our next poll question here of what percentage of your direct is repeat guests versus new guests who've never booked with you before?
Oh, now this is where I wish that
And
PMS
this
is
is hard. The
check,
data is
right?
like the data almost it doesn't exist for this. It's really, really hard to measure.
Really hard.
So this is
Because how do
this
you
is a, you know.
Right. So I know, Amber, you and I have talked about the guest journey. So there could
Hmm.
be in a household, there could be one person that takes care of all the reservations. There could be two, there could be three, or there could be
Hmm.
family members that rotated around depending on the property. So, I
Hmm.
mean, just because Betty Sue reserved it this year and Sally reserves it next year doesn't mean it's not a new reservation. It means it's the same, it could be the same family that's coming back
Hmm.
for their familial or their friend get together. Uh,
Hmm.
so I mean, it's this is a tough question.
Yeah. And
This is
it's, and again, not all questions we don't need to have the answers as business leaders, right? For these
no,
questions, but
no.
asking the questions helps us start to understand the answer. Because I do see, like, I've seen companies that have 75% plus direct, like, repeat guests, right? Or not repeat guests, but direct bookings. And sometimes what that means is that you're only getting repeat guests, and those people, like, you're slowly starting to lose them. So you've got to bring new guests that have never booked with you before into your booking pool, right? In order to grow year over year. If you only get repeat guests through direct bookings, that's not enough, is what I'll say. Um, and so do you agree with that, Dirk? And do you see
Absolutely.
that of that
Right.
need to, like, pull in? Yeah.
You got to have a mix. You got to have a mix of the
Mm-hmm.
return. You got to have a mix of the new, and whether
Mm-hmm.
that return is every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, every 6 years, or every 10,
Mm-hmm.
you need that repeat at the same time. You need to be filling in that
Mm-hmm.
with some new people that are coming to stay.
Yeah. Of course. And so one of the things that, like, and this is definitely dating me here, but probably
Now,
2016,
Amber.
2017, 2018, we had those questions of, like, if everybody remembers, HomeAway and Airbnb would say, we are your most effective way to acquire new customers, right? Do you remember when they were saying that everywhere?
Mhm.
Like, home away, and I'm going to say home away because they were using that at that point. Um, we are the most cost effective way to acquire new customers. And I have to say, like, the number of managers and operators or marketers who have taken that thing that they've told us years ago as, like, canon at this point. Like, this is now standard for the vacation rental space, and it is not to be questioned at this point. And the question is, with new technology and new capabilities and the shifting in guest behavior and shifting in your market, shifting in supply and demand, is that still true for you, for your market? Is, like, what is the most effective way to acquire new guests? And is it still the OTAs, right?
That's a real interesting question because I look at my personal experience. Jane and I originally, she's a school teacher, my wife, and so
Hmm.
we take a celebratory week um, to celebrate that school is done. And so for the first time, we sat down with our AI friend And we typed in, these are the destinations. This is where we want to go. This is what we want to do.
Hmm.
What do you suggest? And it brought back a day by day itinerary with places
Hmm.
to stay. And not one of them was an OTA. Everything was a book direct site. And
And yeah,
go ahead.
this is the thing is the AI, they don't like they're kind of they don't want to consume other automated things. They want to consume the local experts, and they're going to go
Yeah.
straight to the source. So there's an
And
opportunity right now that
yep.
we've never had. It's like a reset for the opportunity for direct bookings of um, the new search tools and the most effective search tools are not going to the aggregators, are not going to booking.com, Airbnb, Verbo. They are going directly to the source, and they want to find the local experts in the local markets that are writing authentic copy and showing authentic presence on their website, and that's what they're putting up.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that I'm never going to use Airbnb or Vrbo or booking.com
Hmm.
again. That just means I'm going to use them in a different way. If I'm going to sit down
100%.
with my new travel assistant, we'll call it, and I type
Hmm.
in my stuff, it's going to return the book direct. If, however, I'm having a hard time finding a place close to a destination where I want to be, I'm going to use the map feature on those OTAs to find my property and then make adjustments. Now, again, I have a bias. My bias is book direct because I'm in the industry. I
Hmm.
know people who are die-hard Airbnb or Verbo or whomever. I can think of one individual who part of her fun, she loves to scroll through Airbnb and see the new places that are listed in the app. And again, kudos. That's great. I'm not saying that's bad or terrible. That's what she's
Hmm.
chosen to do, and then she goes and stays. I'm one
Yeah.
that is more um, specific to the expertise, and I want to, being a small business owner, want to support the small business owner, manager,
Hmm.
someday an owner.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I guess depends on how you want to ask that
Hmm.
question. Anyway, I digress. So,
Uh-huh.
how do I support those small businesses? How do I support those individuals who are really who love their destination and are passionate about the different activities and want to help me have the best experience that
Hmm.
I want? And so that's why I love the AI piece, is because it
Hmm.
allows me to find those individuals that if I were to have to sit and Google would take me hours of research to get. And the AI, again, it's all in how you ask the question and it's all in how you train it. And that's true of the algorithms. It's all in how you train them. So that's equal. How do I find that? And what do I do? So to me, that's the great
Hmm.
level as we start to look at this, which is why the ability to get the ads in the right place before the right guest who's looking at these things becomes ever so more critical, because it all works together as they start to use the AI piece, at least in my opinion, as I understand it. That's what I'll say today. Tomorrow I may have a different one, but that's
Yeah, and like I think everything has its place because the one thing I'm going to say this bluntly is a huge direct booking like fan, who has spent a lot of time advocating for that and building tools to encourage that. You like direct bookings are those are ideal. Like you want to get the people who are planning their vacation further out with intention, right? That's what direct booking is ideal for. Like these bigger trips, more money, like higher ADRs, longer length of stays. That's what you want booking directly in on your website at the optimal booking window. So then you don't have to like lower rates going down. So that's the ideal situation, right? Airbnb to me right now, and this is more like, and this is something that I think has really come home in the last 6 months for me. Hands down, if you have a property that is less than $200 a night, and needs to be booked within the next 3 weeks to stay, and the booking window is short and tight, and it's a short, like simple vacation, it's a solid win, right? Because if somebody needs like that's where to go because the ADR is low, so the fees are lower for those properties, and it's a really strong solution for that because if you know you're late to the game and you need specific days because you're going on this specific weekend and you have these days off, and you're spending under $800 for the reservation, like you need quantity, right? You can't afford to
Well,
look at
I,
everything.
I,
And you may
I,
disagree. I would love to hear that. Yes.
I will agree with that to a point, and then I will stop
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because to me, because the Airbnb Verbos and the OTAs are an aggregator. Right. I agree that
Mm-hmm.
they have a marketing budget that I will never, ever, ever be able to match. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to, use the term the billboard effect and ride their coattails, so to speak, to have my inventory there. I also think that, again, coming back to the AI piece and people, especially now as we start to look at uh, the economy, we start to look at gas prices, we start to look at all these things that are now squeezing the available or the discretionary income for travel because everybody wants to travel. Well, not everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
right, those that are looking for a vacation want to do something. And so I think they're going to continue to turn to this resource of, hey, we speaking selfishly, hey, we went to Lake Chelan, we were there 3 years ago, we had a great time. What's going on there? Am I going to turn to, if I'm an Airbnb loyalist, I'm going to go to Airbnb. If I'm a Verbo loyalist, I'm going to go there. Or I may say, you know what? My funds are really tight, my discretionary funds, and I want to make sure that I want to do these activities and I stay in this destination. And then I can go in and type that in and then have the research assistant, as I call it, go out and do all this information and return it to me so
Mm-hmm.
I can make a decision as to what's best. So while I agree that some of the last minute platforms have their place, to me, I continue to think because I think of the number of last minute reservations that I continue to get here. And by last minute, I'm
Mm-hmm.
meaning anywhere from, 2 days to 7 days. And it's a large number for the smaller properties, not so much for the larger because those are
Mm-hmm.
already, there's a lot of more people,
Mm-hmm.
but the smaller properties, there's, you have good visibility, you have good SEO, you have a searchable site for the AI, you're able to
Mm-hmm.
do the blogs and do all these, I mean, we talk about
Mm-hmm.
a cooking analogy or a metaphor, I'm cooking jambalaya and I'm going to add some of
Mm-hmm.
this and add some of that and take away some
Mm-hmm.
of this and take away some of that. And so it just depends on where we're at and what we're doing. And it's not, and it's based on season and it's based
Yeah,
on who's
a lot.
booking, right? Because if I have my planners that are
Mm-hmm.
booking 6 months in advance, I want to be spot talking to them. When I have my last minute people, I need to have a different message to them so they'll be able to say, "Oh yeah, that works for me." So being able
Mm-hmm.
to have this curated message to allow them
Mm-hmm.
to so I can speak their language.
Yeah.
I will tell you
No,
this, the last minute
yeah.
reservations, the walk-ins, if you will, because I do have some places where I can take a walk-in. I always tell my staff, I say they are the most price sensitive people you will ever meet. And so if they're walking in the door, we better make sure we've got our right price for them and we can wow them with our guest service and that we're excited to see them so that they'll make the reservation.
Mhm. And come back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the strategy that you have that you've built works so well. And it requires, and this is the thing. This is like, how many years have you been working on this in Northwest? And how long has Northwest been working on this? Like, do you think
Yeah, I mean, they were
this
working on it
strategy?
before I arrived. I was just able to come in
Mm,
and add some spice at the end to make it taste a little
uh-huh,
better. And now I continue to go back to chef school, i.e., Amber
hmm
and others, because my vendors are important
hmm
to me because you're like the bees that go around all the different flowers and come back with this pollen and help me do better. We have to constantly be learning. And in some cases, that's to be very candid with you, Kimber, that's really hard because I have to undo things that I've learned either last week or years ago that I thought would never change. And I'm having to undo some of those things. And, to be able to
hmm
recognize that bias is hard.
Yeah, for sure. But it's what makes a resilient business. And I think that's kind of that balance of like we're having to like, yeah, we're having to shift out like our understanding of technology in the world and how that applies to our business. And then also invest in these things that Some of it's immediate, some of it's
Sure.
instantaneous, some of it's not, right? And the long-term effects of, like, when I look at the data for Northwest Vacations, it is one of the best performing direct websites like that I've seen, honestly, just across the
Oh,
board.
wow.
Like
Thank
the
you.
number of people, yeah, it works, but it's because it's created an ecosystem, right?
Mm,
And it's created its own gravity to this point. And you've constantly been working, you've constantly been iterating and changing and tweaking, and not like massive, drastic tweaks, but just continuous investment of your
mm.
time, of your strategic attention,
Well,
right? Yeah.
I would say yes to that, but I would also say it's also, again, I come back to the people I've connected with and talked to, and you're one of those. And being able to, I mean, the highest compliment I can pay to you, Amber, is that that I totally have embraced the product. Again, I know we're talking
Mhm,
about general things and all those things, but again,
mhm,
you are providing and allowing me to be in front of guests who are looking for specific items, and we can provide that to them, and
mhm.
that has made a difference.
Yeah.
I truly account a lot of that success to the work that you have been able to perform for me.
Well, thank you so much. I love that. And that's exactly what we're here to
Well,
do.
that,
And
yeah.
yeah, and just real quick, for clarification, Bookings Cloud, what we do is we drive guest demand directly to websites, and we use social media targeted automation to do that. And it really, and I'm going to say the technology of, like you were talking about Airbnb, like we can't touch Airbnb's budget, right? As an individual operator. But
No.
what if you can take those ad dollars and you can use all the data and information that's out there on the internet of like what Meta has and what Google has out there about how guests behave and what they're looking for. And so instead of like spraying mud on the wall and seeing what sticks, building a targeted campaign to match the person that is looking for this property with the actual direct link to the direct website of the property they're looking for. So they can click on
Absolutely.
it, they can look, they can decide, they can make that movement quick. And so it's like really narrowing down and specializing a
Yeah.
focus. And that's what we're trying to do everywhere, I think.
Absolutely. And everybody has limited funds, and everybody has, at least the people I know, right?
Hmm.
People I hang out with and or connect with. And so making
Uh-huh.
sure that we are intentional with those dollars that we have available, you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you know, so yeah, so I would look, yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
absolutely. No, this was a great conversation. I think, Dirk, you and I could talk about direct bookings and the change in the markets, what's going on for hours, honestly. So, yeah.
Right, because if I can say this one piece, you know, I mean, you and
Hmm.
I I've asked you about this. We've talked a little bit about it, about the guest journey. And so I
Hmm.
think if you go back one slide, maybe,
Let's see, this one or
mm,
this one.
no,
All right.
maybe it's the one we were just on.
Okay.
Maybe this is the one we were just on
This one.
is the
There we
best
go.
one to work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think about the guest journey from the time they decide, hey, I want to go on vacation to actually making the reservation and then to the time they check out. What am I
Hmm.
doing as an operator? What am I doing as an experience curator to not
Hmm.
allow my properties to be looked at as a commodity? Even I'm
Hmm.
not saying that we shouldn't have prices. I'm saying that we don't want to be looked at, you know, like
By price first.
by price first. I
Hmm.
recognize that price is a component of the discussion and decision, and I totally agree with that. At the same time, if we're able to show if I'm able to show the experience, or we as operators are able to show the experience and the value that we bring, and
Hmm.
that we help them accomplish their goals, well,
Hmm.
then the price becomes a value as opposed to a cost. And that's
Hmm.
what I think that's what I'm trying to do, is to help it not be such a, now there will always be those that always just look at cost, right? The last minute people coming
Hmm.
in, all those things, they're very focused on, I'm here, I want to be here, I like your destination, now how much is it? Whereas so anyway, all of those things start to play into that. And how do I be intentional as I look through that? So again, this guest journey
Mhm.
piece, communication, connectivity, which is why
Yeah.
the individual operators are important to me because it allows me to be that personality, that person.
Yeah. One of the things that we actually have seen extensively, we've done a lot of A/B testing on ads and how to target guests and what people respond to and what people engage with. And we saw when we put pricing on meta ads on Facebook and Instagram, engagement went down and the number of bookings, the conversions, which is what we're all after at the end of the day, went down significantly just across the board. As soon as you put price, whether you're marketing a $5,000 night property or a $500 night property,
Right.
the price shuts down the conversation and
It
people
does.
stop looking. They stop with that experience. So, yeah, you definitely want to. And again, that getting back to that 65% of guests do not find the property they're looking for. So, how do you get the right property in front of the people who are looking for your property? What are the
Right.
different ways to be able to do that? That are efficient. And then I'm going to say this is the big thing that a lot of people it's hard because we have bosses, we have reporting, like people have boards, investors. You've got to let it cook because it takes time.
It does. And sometimes that
Hmm.
patience is the hardest thing because
Yeah.
our world of immediate return is so strong. And
Hmm.
yet, again, I come back to the keynote speaker. He talks about some of the marketing and he was doing it take 4 or 5 years before it would finally turn into something that he was excited about. And he was
Hmm.
consistent about it.
Yeah.
The one I'm specifically thinking of is the Ugg boots were really strong in Southern California, which is a surf market because he was a surfer.
Hmm.
And he moves to the Midwest. Well, it's a hockey market. And so, it takes time to get everybody to see the value of his boots. And so,
Hmm.
again, being intentional and patient.
Hmm.
Uh, again, right, you have to be intentional and patient on the right thing. But sometimes you don't know. It takes time to grow a tree.
Yeah.
It takes time to grow a flower. They just don't happen instantaneously.
Exactly. Like in this case study, and this is one of the things that we don't need to get into it right now, but like direct bookings pay off. We know they stay for longer, they stay for higher amounts. All of that. They book further out. But the other thing is your increase in direct bookings. If you have a 30% annual increase in direct bookings in a year, especially for those of you who haven't started, that's 2.5% a month, right? If you were to measure a 2.5% increase in direct bookings, if me as a vendor go to you and be like, you had 2.5% more bookings that were direct this month over last month, you'd be like, that's seasonality, that's a fluke, that's one reservation, that's whatever. And so the change is happening, but it takes time, right? All the
Right.
things that we do, the change is happening, it takes time. How are you pacing? How are you progressing? So just know this, like daily incremental steps in the right direction are much more powerful than I need a new website, right? Let me redesign my entire website. Tweak your stuff, make these incremental changes, and be consistent about it.
Right. This is where the why question comes into play. Why I
Hmm.
don't like starting questions with why because I feel like it creates barriers. I need
Hmm.
to understand the why things are the way they are. So, what questions am I asking? I remember being in a keynote address, and I think it was David Angotti, and he would work in one AI to ask it a question, to ask what question it should ask, he should ask, and then he would take the question from that one and go to another AI and ask the question. So
Hmm.
again, the questions is where to me is where the hard work is. What question
Hmm.
do I need to ask to lead me to the answers that I'm seeking? And who can I
Absolutely.
ask and what can I do to find those questions? Uh,
Hmm.
and I mean, if
Yeah.
I keep
Well,
asking the
let me
same,
ask a question that I bet I'm gonna say I'll be shocked. You're more likely to. I'm gonna say 90% chance you can't answer it than you can. And I'm
oh,
Dirk. I'm gonna
well,
put you on the
I
spot.
certainly want to be in the 10%. Here we go.
Do you know how much you spent on Airbnb fees to get your bookings last month?
Well, that's a difficult question from my
Yeah.
perspective
Right.
because I don't know. I would have to go look to see how many reservations I had, right?
You're gonna have to look at how many reservations, how much were they? It's 15.5%, right? So here's the thing: the amount of money you spend on OTAs, like all of us, right? One, nobody can answer this question in the space. And I'm gonna say, like you can estimate this more than 10K less than, you spent more than $25,000 on Airbnb fees last month. So the question is, and this is what this question is great to answer, to ask,
Oh,
because we
please.
don't know, right, what this is. And so, and Jess is so excited about this one, the mic drop, right? But this is really the thing of, that's your money, right? If somebody's willing to pay that to stay in a property that you own with using your data and your about your property, that's your money, and you've given it to Airbnb to fund their marketing budget, right? Do
I
we
can
want to
answer
do
the
that? Do
question.
you want to keep doing that? Um, be intentional
Here's
about it.
the answer should be zero because it should be
I don't,
passed on to the guest.
well,
Well, it
no,
depends
but
on
if
your
the guest
philosophy.
is
I should
willing to
say that.
pay it, yeah. So I think we fundamentally disagree on this piece. If the guest is willing to pay it, it's still your money.
Sure. Okay. I could certainly walk down that path with you. Sure.
So
Absolutely.
if the guest wants to pay
Um,
$1,000 for a property that you manage and you own and you put all the data together online, then the guest is willing to pay that, and you've handed
sure.
off fifteen and a
Sure.
half percent of it.
I could certainly, I can see that argument. Totally. Anyway, yeah, that
Mhm.
would be certainly an interesting conversation to have back and forth.
So, and I'm gonna say they've trained you to think like that, right? Hey, OTAs are the cheapest cost of acquiring new customers, and
Yeah.
don't worry about the cost because the guest is paying for it. Those are beautiful sales lines, and
Mhm.
no finance person, like if you go to just an independent like finance like analyst, they're gonna say we have been sold a line, and it was very effective. But technology
I will have to
changes, the
think about that.
shifts have changed.
I had not considered that, Amber. Again, you always give me a nugget that I have to noodle on. And that's why I always love talking to you. I will chew on that one.
We
Because
we should do this more
again,
often.
well, we don't, we should.
Because
We should.
like and I was just talking to Lauren, um, if y'all held a webinar next week, like drop of a hat, on what's the travel implications of gas prices on summer travel this year, and how do we adjust for that? We could just go on for another hour on that.
Oh, totally,
So
totally, totally.
so anyways, there's a lot of stuff we could chat about for sure. So this has been delightful.
Uh, Great conversation. Amber, questions. Should we see if there are questions from
Hmm.
those that are, if I mean,
Yeah.
you and I have been yakking back and forth. We've been talking heads to a degree. Loved our conversation. And
Hmm.
I will certainly noodle on the it's my money.
Hmm.
Uh yeah.
Makes it
Oh,
more painful, right? If it's your
yeah.
money, you'll know how much yours. Like if I ask you this next month, you'll know.
Well, I still have to go look it up, but yeah, I could figure it out. I could figure it out now. I just yeah.
Hmm.
Um so fascinating.
Hmm.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Uh so Amber, as you think about the direct booking pattern and the guest journey, what is a key piece of counsel that you would give someone who is thinking about, hey, I want to dig into my data, I want to understand it better. How do they how do they start to chew at that in bite-sized pieces? Because the data can become overwhelming very quickly,
Hmm.
at least for me, and
Hmm.
there can be a lot of it. And
Hmm.
what counsel would you give to somebody who is looking to wade into their data field so they can better understand what's taking place? What counsel would you give them?
I would say, like, so there's two things I would say. One is know where your bookings come from, not just where your revenues come from in a month, but like this month, how many new bookings are you getting and where are those coming from, right? Like new bookings, because the bookings the money you're putting on the books today is the revenue that you're going to have for the future, and we keep wanting to build for the future. Once you look at the end of the month of like, where did my bookings come from for the bookings that the money I made this month, that's already happened. You can't impact that, right? So look at your booking source of what your bookings coming in this month, what the source is, right? Where they're coming from, and where's the money, like where's most of your money coming from, and just start to get a comfort with that. And then I would say go past the data, right? And start to look at what is my what does your guest journey on your website look like? Right? And what is your guest journey all the way through? Like, go experience it and go have your mother experience it, right? Somebody who's not tech forward. Is it easy to book on your website? Is it a great experience? Is it a bunch of no's first, or is it a hospitality focused experience? Right.
Yeah.
Um, and understand what that looks like. Is it easier to book on your website than it is on somewhere else? Do you trust the website? Right.
Right.
That type of thing. And understand that and make the tweaks to make that a little bit easier. Right.
For sure.
um that's what I would say is just understand what your guest journey looks like and make that guest journey just incrementally easier. And if you
Mhm.
focus on that, the data will come, right? The other pieces, like, start to dig into it, get comfortable with it, start asking questions, and get comfortable asking questions that you don't know the answers to.
Yeah.
Because
Ooh,
when
yeah.
if you have all the answers, then you're not growing, and your business isn't growing, and then you're getting stagnant. And so it's okay to ask questions, and it's healthy, and it's a sign of a strong business to ask questions that you don't have the answers to.
Yeah. Love that.
So love
Amber,
that.
it has been a pleasure to talk with you today. You are
Well,
just
you
the best.
too. Yes.
Ah,
Thank you.
I hope everybody
Um,
else feels that same way. I'm biased because I think the world of Amber, but hopefully you all do too. Amber, thank you for your time and being willing to share your expertise with us. Jessica, who is really under the weather, his contact information here. You can reach out to her if you have additional information. And again, remember, VRNation is here to support you in your objectives and your goals and to help you be a better operator. That's what we're after. And there's lots of ways to be an outstanding operator, and not everyone needs to be the same. And to me, as I said earlier, that's the beauty of this space.
mhm,
Um, and so how we apply the principles are all very different, and there's still correct principles and good principles and sound principles, and yet we apply them in a different way, and it totally works out good. So excellent. Amber,
mhm.
again, thank you. All the best to you today. To Lauren, thank you for managing the behind the scenes for us and taking care of us. And to each of you that have attended, thank you again for your time. And we'll see you in April. And if not, we'll see you at the next educational point. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.